Hi friends, and welcome to Book a Day for Little Learners. Friends, today we're reading Santa's Snow Globe. Look at Santa's, like his belly, actually his beard. Look at this snow globe, friends. Isn't that cool? Like, they move. I think that's so neat. It feels really good, friends. It's illustrated by Ned Taylor. Did you see it? They like move all over. Neat. Santa's Snow Globe. Do you have a snow globe? You have to be careful with snow globes because most of the sphere part is glass and it's made of a very thin glass. But you turn the snow globe over like this. You turn it over and then the snow goes everywhere and you turn it back and it looks like it's snowing. It's so pretty. Maybe I can go and deliver all the presents instead. I skipped a page, didn't I, friends? I skipped a bunch of pages. Let's go back to the beginning. So we looked at the snow globe. Let's start the story off right. Everyone in the North Pole had finished work for Christmas, except for Santa. Mrs. Claus sipped hot cocoa as the elves sledged down snowy hills. Ho, 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 called Santa, who was excited to start his deliveries. There's Santa with the reindeer. Santa carried one last present to the sleigh as the reindeer munched on crunchy carrots. That's a good treat for reindeer. Suddenly he tripped and dropped the heavy gift of his big toe. The heavy gift on his big toe. Ow! Cried Santa, clutching his sore foot and hopping around in the snow. Poor Santa. It doesn't feel good when you drop something on your foot. Santa tried everything he could think of to make his toe stop hurting. First, he put a bag of frozen peas on it, and then he dipped it in the icy lake. Maybe if I put on Mrs. Claus's special fluffy slippers, hoped Santa, my toe won't hurt so much. But it was no use. It didn't feel any better. There's only one thing for it, said Mrs. Claus. We'll have to call the elf doctor. Suddenly, he appeared with a twinkle and a flash. I'm afraid you must rest your foot tonight, said the elf doctor, peering at Santa's big red toe and shaking his head. Do not leave the North Pole. This will be a problem, friends. He has to leave the North Pole. Maybe I can go and deliver all the presents instead, thought Mrs. Claus. So she jumped into the sleigh and whistled to some of the elves for help. She pulled on the reins, but to her surprise, the reindeer didn't move. I think it's nice that Mrs. Claus is trying to solve the problem. Meanwhile, Santa called his friend, the Magic Christmas Fairy. How will the presents be delivered now that I can't do it? He asked her. Just then, the Christmas Fairy appeared with a special gift and said, Here, this snow globe is magical. It will help you save Christmas. Okay, we got to see the snow globe again. Shake it up, shake it up, shake it up. Gotta move it around. Shake it up. At that moment, Mrs. Claus burst in. We tried to deliver the presents for you ourselves, she cried, but the reindeer wouldn't take off. Thank you, said Santa, chuckling. But the reindeer need their magical flying dust. And then he gave her a special key to unlock the dust store. I didn't know that about the reindeer, did you? Santa began telling them everything they would need to know to do this work for him. Here, take these headsets so we can talk to each other, said Santa. But I'll need to see you to really be able to help. Then Santa remembered the magical snow globe. He shook it and saw the sleigh inside. I don't think we see a sleigh inside. No, we see a tree with a reindeer. So Mrs. Claus sprinkled the reindeer with magical dust, and they took off into the sky. Sure enough, when Santa shook the snow globe, he saw the sleigh flying safely above him. Where do we go first, Santa? Asked Mrs. Claus, speaking into her new headset. He told her the special sat-nav code, and they sped off on their way. They hadn't gone far when the reindeer began to feel a bit grumpy. Uh-oh, said Merry Elf. Santa, what should we do? Santa spoke over the headset. I always keep a secret stash of crunchy apples in the sleigh to cheer them up. I bet they get tired, don't you think, friends? Santa watched them in the globe and before long began to worry as it was time for them to land the sleigh for the first time. Mrs. Claus had never driven a sleigh before, let alone landed one on a roof. "Okay, you'll have to walk me through it," she said, feeling nervous. Santa guided Mrs. Claus step by step using the magical globe. Left a bit, right a bit, now pull on the reins, he called. With a skid and a bump, Mrs. Claus landed the sleigh safely on the roof. "Ouch," said Glitter Elf, falling and landing on her bottom. Inside the house, the elves felt puzzled. "Which presents do we deliver?" they asked. Santa looked in the globe and read from his list. Next, he told Sparkle Elf some special magic words so they wouldn't wake the sleeping dog. Uh-oh. Looks like they dropped the presents. Look, there's a little mouse back there. They lit in a bunch of snow when they came in, didn't they? See the sleeping dog? They were trying not to wake him up. Oh, look at the pretty places they went. Santa helped Mrs. Claus and the elves deliver presents all night long. Until soon, they could do it all on their own. He saw them travel the whole world inside the snow globe. So this looks like it's in Asia and maybe in Europe, and it's a big city somewhere. And then somewhere maybe in the Caribbean with a beach island and dolphins. In fact, Santa thought that they'd all done such a good job of saving Christmas, he wanted to do something special to thank them. With a little help from the Christmas fairy, he opened the window and called to his North Pole friends. Let's see who his friends are. I see rabbits and snow people, and there's the little fairy. The Christmas fairy got straight to work, and with a swish of her magic wand, the whole of the North Pole was decorated for a special party. She even made a glittering ice rink for everyone to skate on. "Perfect," she said with a twinkling smile. That's nice to do something nice for other people. Jolly Elf helped Freezy Snowman and Fluffy Bunny use the elves' workshop to make some last-minute thank you gifts. Santa even hobbled to the kitchen and tried to bake some special treats for them. But he burned every last one. "Oh dear," he said. So I don't think Santa's very good at baking. When Mrs. Claus and the elves arrived back at the North Pole, the snowmen, elves, and bunnies all shouted, "Surprise!" Look at that nice party they're having. Everyone enjoyed the party whizzing and whirling on the ice, but Santa was the most excited of all to see Mrs. Claus and the elves. "Thank you for delivering the presents for me," he said. "Seeing the happy children in the snow globe on Christmas morning, we couldn't have done it without you," said Mrs. Claus. "And a little bit of Christmas magic, of course." So the story worked out in the end. In the beginning of the story, Santa had a problem and he hurt his foot, so he couldn't go and deliver all the presents on Christmas Eve. But Mrs. Claus came to save the day, although she had a few problems, didn't she? So the magic Christmas fairy came and she gave Santa a snow globe so he could see something. So I hope you enjoy this book, friends. I thought the Santa snow globe was a really fun story and not one I've seen before. Friends, I hope you enjoyed the story. I will see you tomorrow for our next new Christmas story. Until then.